Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexandra. I'm a professional fashion designer, pattern cutter, and creative consultant who is here to help you build your dream wardrobe that is designed by you, made by you, and worn by you. Except today, we're kind of diverting a little bit from that. If you know anything about me and my digital pattern library universe, it's that I have pledged to always give away free scrap buster patterns. Now, I have this stat from years ago. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much the same, but about 15% of our textile waste ends up on the cutting room floor. And so you can have small bits of scrap you don't really know what to do with. That comes great for stuffing. It's great for kind of making something called scrap confetti. And you have larger bits of scrap that maybe you could make a pair of knickers out of. There's a video on that, by the way. Or you could do an accessory. But today I'm going to give you a really practical fabric planter or fabric basket. And the best thing about this is you can use it for a variety of things, whether you store your notions in it, your threads, your small sewing supplies, whether you use it like I do for one of mine as a makeup basket or makeup bag, whether you choose to put dog toys in it or just organize your house, whatever you choose to do, this really is a great use of scraps. And it's a completely beginner-friendly pattern to construct as well. So, as you know, I like jumping straight into it. Let's run through the instructions. You can download this pattern completely free if you click the link below. And I have an entire wealth of free sewing patterns for you to use up your scraps in really practical and fun sewing project ways. So make sure you have a little browse of what else is available as well. So let's cut out our pattern pieces then. You will have one template, you just need the one shape for this design, but you're going to cut out 6 pieces. Now I've chosen this animal style print linen that I had left over from a skirt framework inside the DPL Atelier, and I'm also going to be pairing it with just some leftover calico which I use for toiling my projects. I do advise picking 2 contrasting styles and yet complementary, because what we're going to end up doing is turning the edge of the fabric planter down so that you have a really nice design detail on the lip. So it's just this one shape. It comes in 5 sizes. I'll be cutting this out in my chosen exterior fabric and a complementary lining fabric. I'll also be cutting it out in interfacing or iron-on fusing. So in total, you should have 6 pieces. And whilst the instructions do say to interface your lining fabric, because my pattern fabric was a little bit lighter in weight, I chose to interface this over at the iron. When you are using fusing, use a dry hot iron. You're going to see me lay the other piece of fabric on top just as a way of using a pressing cloth. So if your iron is too hot, you can damage your fusing or iron-on fusing. What this is doing is it's just giving a little bit more structure to the fabric and the textile. And by fusing 2 of your pieces of fabric, whether that's your lining or your exterior, depending on the weight of your textile, you are going to end up having 6 cutout pieces turning into 4 panels of fabric that we are now going to construct together. So to construct, I'm going to be pinning my fabrics right sides together. So my exterior fabric to my exterior fabric and my lining to my lining. And I'm going to pin along the 2 medium length edges and the short length at the top before sewing a 1 centimeter seam allowance around these 3 edges. This entire project just consists of straight lines of stitching, which is why it's really beginner friendly. So take that over to the sewing machine, sew away, and then we're going to press these open at the iron. So pressing your seam allowances open. A top tip to help you keep your lines of stitches straight if you're a beginner is to not look at the needle and thread and to actually look at the edge of your fabric. Give it a go, it'll transform the way you sew straight lines. Once I'm taking this over to the iron, I am using a sleeve press to get into the nooks and crannies of this. And you can see that I'm just pressing my seam allowance flat and open. This is going to create a nice, neat finish once it's turned right side out. Next up, we want to match the corners. So these little openings, you're going to pull to the side of your fingers. The 3-dimensional shape will take form. You just want to match them up at the seam allowances you've just sewn. pop a pin through it, and then construct this at the sewing machine with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. You really do start to see this sewing project take shape quickly, so it's really rewarding as well as beginner friendly. So you can see here that I'm just taking my time at the sewing machine, sewing a 1 centimetre seam allowance, and then if you wanted to, pop over to the iron and press those seams open as well. We now want to join right sides together, so I'm going to be turning my exterior inside out and my interior inside out so that you can see these seams align. So pin them at the seams, use these as your balance points before easing the rest of your bag and lining around the edges and pin in place. And then we're going to end up sewing this all together. Again, 1 centimetre seam allowance all around the top, but it is really important that you leave about a 2.5 centimetre, if not more, gap. And what I like to do anytime I'm doing inserting an armhole, inserting a sleeve, something like that, I like to leave that gap by the seam. And so I just find this a little bit more invisible when you come to do your final construction. So I will always leave a gap or do the start of my stitching and the end of my stitching at the seam itself. So you can see here that I've left a little hole, and what you're going to do, it can be a bit fiddly, but have patience with it, is you're just going to pull everything right side out. And then you'll notice that we have enclosed the top edge with a really nice, neat finish. But to close that hole that we have just left open, you want to take this over to the iron, push your lining through to the inside and give that edge a press. You're going to notice with my fingertips here that I am rolling the fabric right to the edge. So I want to get this as clean as possible, making sure that the lining fabric and the outer shell fabric meet equally right at the top. So take your time rolling it. And what this is also going to do is it's going to press that hole closed, as you can see here. So I'm tucking that in with my finger, but you'll also then be able to edge stitch all the way around the top. Again, this is just a straight line of stitching, and that is going to secure your fabric planter closed. That's it, my friends. How many lines of stitching is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 lines of stitching. Look how cute it is. And yeah, you can literally use this for anything. It is such a quick project. It uses up your scraps. It's versatile, it's useful, it's practical. I mean, I really don't know a point in this where it isn't winning. So there we have it. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I really hope that you download the pattern. Another top tip, by the way, FYI, public service announcement, is you do not have to cut through the pattern, if that makes sense. Use a scalpel, or the pattern is big enough to use a pair of scissors, and just cut out each of the outlines, and you can print the pattern off once and have the entire size range templates at your disposal. So I hope that that makes sense. You basically have each template cut out, rather than dissecting through it to sew up your initial desired size, and then you feel like you have to print the pattern out again, or you've got to stick it back together. Just cut it out like a template, like a Russian doll, and you'll be able to have your extra small right up until, I think it goes up to extra large, fabric planter basket pattern templates. That's a long sentence. Either way, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Tag me in socials if you make this, if you make any of my free scrap buster patterns. And of course, don't forget to grab your free sewing pattern down below, PDF printable, amongst a wealth of others. We've got a yoga mat bag, we've got a scrunchie, we've got a mannequin arm that I mentioned at the start of this video with much smaller fabric scraps you can use to stuff it, and it's really practical to then drape designs on the stand. And we also have a wealth of sew-alongs to go along with it. Right, I will catch you on the flip side, my friend. Stay safe, keep creative, and let me know how you get on.